Starts now.
Good evening, everyone. 2 children are in critical condition after being shot in a drive-by shooting last night in Winston County. Our Cash Matlock has been in Winston County following this story. He joins us in the studio now with the very latest on it. Cash.
Andrea, neighbors say a 12-year-old boy and a 13-year-old boy were playing outside their house at the intersection of Goss Road and Minnie Miller Road when a white SUV drove by and opened fire. Now, police say they already have 2 suspects in custody and they expect to make more arrests in the coming days.
When I got out the door, I seen a vehicle going down the road and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, I said, what's going on?
Gwendolyn Goss has lived in the High Point community for most of her life. Hearing gunshots as she stood on her front porch was a first.
Made me scared to sit on my porch. Knowing that done went on. And honey, you can't sit on your porch, something bad wrong.
Winston County Sheriff Jason Pugh says both boys were shot multiple times, the shots coming from an SUV. He says deputies were able to find and stop the SUV within minutes.
We were actually very lucky that we found the vehicle on video footage at the Murphy's gas station here at Walmart in Louisville.
Pugh says both boys were taken to a Jackson hospital.
We are anxiously awaiting any update as to their condition. The last updates we got were that they were both in very serious condition, and we hope and pray for their families that they are okay at this point.
The sheriff says he does not believe the shooting was random.
Several motives are forming for the shooting at this point. We're not ready to nail down to any one particular motive as to why this occurred. I do not believe that it was random. I believe it was definitely premeditated. And
neighbors say the community needs to take a stand.
Parents need to get together to know what their childs are doing. I say, I don't want to be involved in none of this corruption around here. It's just too much going on. It's scary. My heart just goes out to them.
Sheriff Pugh says if you know anything about this incident, please contact Winston County Crime Stoppers at 662-773-9999.
A former Ecru City clerk is sentenced to a total of 60 years in prison but may not have to serve any time behind bars. Gretchen Moody entered an open plea to embezzlement by a public official in Pontotoc County Circuit Court. Moody was accused of taking fine money and converting it to private use. She was also charged with using the city of Ecru's credit card to make personal purchases, including several high-end guns, and giving herself extra paychecks. A state auditor's investigation resulted in an indictment in September of 2017. Today, Moody was sentenced to 20 years in prison on the first count and 10 suspended and 5 on house arrest in order to pay restitution of over $183,000. She will avoid any time in jail if she serves out the 5-year house arrest and pays full restitution in that time. She also was sentenced to 20 years each on 2 other counts, but those will be retired if terms of house arrest are met. She's already repaid $75,000. Well, there's a new sheriff in Monroe County tonight. On Tuesday, former Sheriff Cecil Cantrell, you may remember, turned in his resignation in a move that surprised everyone. On Wednesday, the state auditor's office then confirmed that it is investigating Cantrell, but the department is still has a job to do, and someone has to make sure it gets done. The Monroe County Board of Supervisors met today to name someone to do that job. Riley Livingston was there. She joins us in the studio now with an update on that story. Riley.
Andrea, supervisors tell me that they, along with the Sheriff's Department and the Sheriff-elect, came to what they feel is the best decision.
Curtis Knight is the face of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department until January. After careful consideration, the Monroe County Board of Supervisors appointed the former chief deputy to the post of interim sheriff.
Today's decision was a joint decision between the Board of Supervisors, the Sheriff-elect Kevin Crook, and Chief Deputy Curtis Knight. And you know, there's a lot of discussion about it, several different ways it could have gone, and we all agreed that this is the best way to transition.
Knight served as the chief deputy for nearly 8 years. The board says this experience will help make the transition easier.
I can't speak for everybody at the Sheriff's Department, but I don't think there's anybody over there who has any question of Curtis Knight's ability to lead that department.
Now that Sheriff Knight has been sworn in, he says it's time for the real work to begin.
I'm going to sit down with the Sheriff-elect Crook, and of course we have a lot to look over, employees, but the budget, motor vehicles. There's a lot more than just the aspect of law enforcement, which is the key. But we need these other things to be able to perform that job.
And there to help him out is Sheriff-elect Kevin Crook. Supervisors appointed Crook as chief deputy, giving him what he says is a unique opportunity.
I have a few months to observe, and we can get the ball rolling and casting a vision for what 2020 is going to look like, and letting the people know as soon as possible, whether their position is going to be involved in the new direction that we're going as a department. And so I think that's a good thing also for them, that we'll have that time to talk through those things and prepare.
When this current term ends, Sheriff Knight says he will step down and resume his position as chief deputy. Sheriff-elect Crook will then be sworn in as sheriff.
All right, Riley in our studio with that story. Time to turn our attention now to weather. Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson standing by with our first look. Happy Friday.
We made it to Friday, Andrea, a live view with our Alpha Insurance Camera Network. You can see some sunshine, some clouds. We have some showers and thunder showers across our region as well. Dotting the landscape here from Louisville and just south of Macon here towards Philadelphia and Kemper County. Also back to the west to a very heavy downpour here in Calhoun County, and also some heavier rain back to the northwest of New Albany. So that's what we have out there. Plan accordingly if you're heading out to high school football this evening. There's still the chance for showers and thunder showers, 80s in many spots now. All of us in the 70s this evening. Your weekend forecast is coming up.
Investigators in Noxubee County are still trying to determine what caused a fire last night that killed a woman there. The blaze broke out just before 9 p.m. at a home on Scott Street in Brooksville. Noxubee County Coroner R.L. Calhoun says 82-year-old Carrie Key was the victim in this fire. Her son told us last night on the scene that he lived with his mother and he was her caretaker and that she was disabled. The son was not injured in the fire. Boonville police are calling it a tragic and unintentional act. The department today released a report on the investigation into the death of a toddler who was left in a car last Friday. The preliminary autopsy confirms that 21-month-old Lincoln Dodds died from hyperthermia after accidentally being left inside the car for more than 8 hours. Investigators say the father went to pick up his son at a local daycare, and it wasn't until staffers told him the child was not there that the man realized he had never dropped him off that morning. The chief adds that this was not the regular routine for the father to drop his son off at daycare. In interviews and videotape support that story, says the chief. Boonville police stress that the daycare had no role in Lincoln's death. A grand jury will determine now if any charges will be filed. When we come back, we have some news that could help you with your weekend planner. Welcome back. Just in time for the weekend. There's some good news in Starkville. The city's water has been given the all clear. Starkville Utilities saying the boil water notice has been lifted for the city of Starkville. The utility company thanked residents for their patience as it worked to make sure that the water was again safe. Meanwhile, Starkville police are making some changes to downtown Starkville on the weekend. Starting tonight, the area around University and Maxwell in the Cotton District will be closed to traffic from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. That'll be every Friday night and every Saturday night. The department says it is strictly to protect people walking the streets in that area. Now, something you want to note here, open containers and go cups from area restaurants and bars will not be allowed in the area.
Live view in Tupelo right now shows a little bit of sunshine trying to peek on through those clouds. We've got temperatures in the 80s in many spots. Tupelo, though, you're 79, Corinth at 75. Unsettled weather for the weekend, more showers and storms coming our way. Details are next.
Your WCBI First Alert AccuWeather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
A live view in Louisville, Mississippi shows some clouds. We've had some showers and thunder showers around. And as we do a little sky cam tour, you can see a mix of sun and clouds at Durham's Pharmacy in Vernon here in West Alabama at 6:15. And there's some sunshine mixed in with some clouds as well in downtown Columbus. Louisville right here, a little bit of shower activity in Winston County and a few other storm cells just south of Macon here. We're hoping for the best. We got our end zone about ready to get underway down there, our game of the week in Noxubee County. Look at these heavy showers and thunder showers here from Houston back towards Calhoun City and Bruce. Now, It's raining now, really good in some spots, but a lot of this will be trending downward as we go throughout the course of the evening hours, much like yesterday. So the sun is scheduled to set in about an hour and 15 minutes, and we'll lose a lot of this once we get into the evening hours. But we do have some pretty good downpours scattered across the area at this point in time. So as we go throughout the course of the evening, we'll have these scattered showers and thunder showers around, and then they'll go away. More moisture down here in the Gulf of Mexico, and there's a deep tropical moisture fetch that will continue to come on in here to the deep south, and that just means a continuing chance for showers and storms for the weekend into early next week. Pretty humid as well, not as hot, but just very humid, highs mainly in the mid to upper 80s, and drier weather by the end of next week. That's the way it looks right now. So some of the rain and storm activity could continue this evening and overnight. Lows into the lower 70s. Wind is light and variable. We may see areas of fog too. If you've gotten rain today, would not be at all surprised to see some fog later on tonight and tomorrow morning. Will become variably cloudy in the morning on Saturday by 10 o'clock, 82, and then we'll likely see more of those showers and storms develop around the area yet again. And then if you see those during the afternoon, temperatures will cool down into the upper 70s as we get into the evening hours. So the average right now about 90, or 91 or 92. We should be below that as we go throughout the weekend and next week because of the rain chances. Now, I mentioned tonight we may see some of those showers linger tonight, but really after 9 or 10 o'clock, all of that, or most of it, should be coming to an end. As we get into our Saturday afternoon, as I mentioned right there, more scattered showers and storms. Some of that will carry over into the evening before that goes away. And guess what? We have even more showers and storms likely in the region on Sunday, primarily during the daytime heating. That's the pattern we are in for your Saturday, for your Sunday. Highs in the 80s here, mid to upper 80s in most spots. If you see a little bit of extra sun, maybe a shot at 90, but most of us in the 80s here. Lows in the lower 70s. Elevated rain opportunities Monday, Tuesday, and then a front will sweep on through the region, it looks like, by the middle of next week. And if that does so, we're still going to be warm by the end of next week, but much, much drier, less humid, and we could actually see some lows down into the 60s by the end of next week. Something to look forward to, but for this weekend, scattered storms.
Football is officially back here in North Mississippi. We're live from our Game of the Week featuring Louisville and Noxubee next in sports.
Tonight's weather is brought to you by Parker McGill. For service, WCBI Sports with Tom Ebel is brought to you by your local Ford dealers. Go further.
Welcome back to the Tiger Den here in Noxubee County. The party has officially started for the Highway 14 Bowl. Noxubee County taking on Louisville to open up the high school football season. But football is officially back here in the state of Mississippi. And the biggest story remains football. We'll head up to Starkville, where the biggest news in college football happening at Mississippi State. Mississippi State men's basketball and football program hit with NCAA sanctions. In the NCAA's report, a tutor received money to complete coursework and tests for 11 players between each programs. 10 of those players being from football, 1 being from men's basketball. Those 10 football players are expected to receive a 8-game suspension as part of the compromise. They have yet to be named in the report. The loss of scholarship for Mississippi State football is in each year in 2020 and 2021. Men's basketball losing 1 for the year of 2020. Fines and losses and official recruiting visits were also implemented in the NCAA sanctions. But the news didn't just stop there for Mississippi State. Of course, yesterday the Bulldogs naming Tommy Stevens as its starter. Backup Keaton Thompson has officially entered the transfer portal. So Thompson will look for a new change of scenery from Starkville as he did not win the quarterback competition. AL.com's Matt Sennett was the first to report that news. Well, let's go back to high school football. Louisville, Noxubee County, one of the biggest rivalries, a lot of changes. Tyrone Shorter now with Louisville. Teddy Young, now the head coach of Noxubee County. A similar master and apprentice approach we've seen from the past couple of years with MC Miller and Tyrone Shorter. Except we're changing it. Of course, the Toothpick Bowl is what this one's always known as, but the Toothpick is now in Newton High as a defensive coordinator. So we're calling this the Highway 14 Bowl because only 35 miles brought these two fan bases together between Noxubee County and Louisville. Some guys to keep an eye on both sides. For Noxubee County starting quarterback Marlon Wyndham. You may recognize that name because he was the team's leading tackler last year. We'll see if Marlin can get the ball to one of Noxubee County's most electric playmakers. That's wide receiver and Austin Peay commit Jeffrey Malone. Number 1, you catch him on the field. They'll probably have plenty of highlights on the end zone tonight. Well, Noxubee County has been a lot of turnover, especially after losing a ton of guys to college football last year. We'll see how the young guys step up. And then with Louisville, you're talking about the reigning 4A state champions, and they bring back a ton of guys that were a part of that championship team. The one big difference for Louisville, they lost 14 guys to college football, and 20 of them were seniors last year, but with Louisville, they're just reloading, I should say, not rebuilding. That's not in the vocabulary for the Wildcats. Dre Shoemaker, the quarterback for the Wildcats this year, he saw some time last year after Deontay Yarborough was hurt, so he's not a new face to under center. It's going to be the skill guys around him that are going to have to step up. Mainly, they don't have to worry about the wide receiver call. The Selby Kirk and David Haynes, those are 2 guys to watch that will be making highlights all year for the end zone as well. But now it's going to be interesting watching these 2 teams. You know, we're so used to seeing Tyrone Shorter here at Noxubee County, and that mold that he created here at Noxubee County to create state championship teams. Now we'll see if Louisville begins to mimic that with more of a fast downhill style of defense. They're going to be good up front with Red Hibbler, who had 16.5 sacks last year. But we'll see what happens. But let's talk about some games to watch. You have to start with Starkville and Brandon down in the Jackson metro area. Starkville looking to try and get themselves back to a state championship for the first time since 2017, taking on Brandon. Then you have Tupelo and South Panola, 2 rivals from a division, no longer in the same division. Great game to start. Then you got the Lowndes County rivalry between Calabar and New Hope, as well as West Point and Horn Lake, the matchup of 2 reigning state champions in 5A and 6A. But some other games to keep an eye on: Jackson Prep taking on Heritage Academy in a Academy School Thunderdome, and then you've got Houston taking on Pontotoc. 2 great teams in 3A and 4A. A ton of great non-conference matchups. You'll see all the highlights coming up tonight at 10:07 on WCBI End Zone. Let's kick off high school football season with a bang. We'll see you at 10. Reporting here in Noxubee County, Tom Ebel for WCBI Sports. We'll blast your forecast next.
Well, we have some showers and thunder showers across the region right now. Let's just hope for the best for these high school football games this evening. I think we'll get them all in, but a lot of what we see here, Andrea, on radar will tend to be going away this evening, so don't freak out just yet. Now, if it's 8 or 9 o'clock and we still have some storms out there, then freak out.
Okay.
More storms this weekend into the middle of next week.
If you search the corners of your mind and you remember last year this time, pretty much the first game of high school football was a washout for almost every team.
It was a bit wet. Now, this is week 1. We have some storms. Week 2, next Friday, we are advertising drier air. So we'll see how it all goes.
All right, just take the raincoats, and you probably can't do umbrellas in the stadium, but stay dry and enjoy the games.
Pack the poncho and just see how it rolls.
And don't forget, End Zone tonight at 10. Enjoy the rest of the evening, everybody.